Hello, and I wanted to make a little addendum to Unit 2. It's sort of the Poetry Week. I've created our course in a way that kind of gives you a little extra time in the beginning to get your textbooks. And so I bought us some time. Within week 1, we read a lot of Native American creation stories as interpreted and passed through some of the early settlers, Grinnell and I can't think of the other guy's name off the top of my head. And this week, it's all poetry, and it's not necessarily Native American poetry, although there are two Native American poets in this group. These are sort of more famous Montanan poets that I could pull together from the internet, right, and kind of do a collection of poetry, and I really do like this collection. There's a little bit of something for everyone. There's some sort of modern naturalist poets. There's some more structured classical poets, right? But really the big thing with poetry is you can look at it in a lot of different ways. You could look at it for its structure. You can look at it for its rhyme scheme. The modernist poets, right, tend to be a little different. You're looking for more imagery, feelings, tones, that sort of a thing. We're still doing that. It's just I want you to keep a special eye for sort of regional qualities and not just the setting, because some of them aren't even set in Montana. What we're looking for is more of it could be the setting, it could be the characters, it could be the values. I talk about values in the other video, and values play a big role in the discussion board this week. And so begin to think about really, how does, this, let's say choke cherries, for example, right? How is this a Montana thing? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a very Montana thing. Choke cherries, where I come from, mean nothing, right? Even huckleberries aren't quite the same. We have big blueberry farms, right, where you get to go and you pick, 20, 30 pounds of blueberries at the blueberry farm. And they're really good. They're fresh, they're ripe, they're local, right? The terroir and all that stuff. We wouldn't think about huckleberries very much, but out here it's all huckleberries. And so obviously that's something. But even choke cherries is its own thing, right? Back in eastern Montana, Lewistown has a choke cherry festival. And I'm like, why would somebody dedicate an entire festival to the choke cherry? How does this even happen? And then it wasn't until I moved out here that I began to source some choke cherries. I know where they're at. And I started to make the choke cherry jam. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And it's not just even having the jam. You have to kind of make it. It's a really interesting thing. And this poem sort of resonates to me. I've kind of lived that. I kind of get that. It's a very survival, very prairie, very, roots sort of thing. And so you have to take a poem, especially a regional poem, and associate it, what kind of regional value does that reflect? What kind of regional value does that even sort of emit? And so, this black cherry moon, the imagery, right? Rose hips, blood bright. This is a very image of ripening fruit. They kind of hang in these clusters that are these big, thick clusters, and you unzip them as you pull them off. It's a very interesting sort of thing. If you take the time of year and you take what we're getting in this fall and this ripeness, that's the very fertile thing, and these prairie sort of towns, right? That's sort of an important piece, whether they want to sort of admit it or not, or however that works, right? A big way of life is, especially in older times, farmers, ranchers, in older times, you had a lot of kids. That's how you maintain, that's how you actually created wealth. You had more work on the farm. You could create more on your farm, right? And you actually kind of ensured that you could produce. And then there's also a lot of imagery here, going towards a death theme, because it's the end of the season and the frost is coming. You have purple black from frost, right? And so you kind of have this life cycle thing happening. Like it's like the ripest before it rots. That's a very classic sentiment if you ever study poetry. So really think about your poems, really thinking about the region, and try to really encapsulate, right, what this means to you for the region. So have a great week.